Welcome back to How to Get Unending Referrals and Enroll More Distributors Now. But before we move on to new content, let's summarize what you learned in the first concept of this program. You learned how to meet two key conditions so that you can feel very confident to ask anyone for referrals by meeting just two key conditions. And the first condition was that you must give something of greater value. The second key condition was that you must give that person absolute certainty that they will get something of greater value. In this video, this is the second of 4 concepts where you're going to learn how to find and motivate key influential people to refer you lots of quality prospects. Remember Martha, the president of the charity, and Ray Bauer, the leader of 250,000 people on his Manatech team? More importantly, do you remember the results from Martha and Ray referring me to their directory of other people in their organization? That's why learning how to find and motivate key leaders is so valuable. So, how would you find key influential people? First, you need to identify your ideal prospects. And this is critical because a big mistake that many people make is thinking that anyone would be a good prospect. The reason that identifying your ideal prospects is critical is because of what I like to call opportunity cost. Now, opportunity cost is the lost opportunity when you're not focusing on key leaders. Leaders have followers, and if you aren't focusing on a leader, then you can bet that someone else will. So, the same amount of time and effort to find one key leader can get you everyone instead of just one person. So would you rather have everyone or would you rather have just one person? Now, not all prospects are the same, so you want your ideal prospect. So how would you find your ideal prospect? Well, again, it's going to come down to asking a question. So ask this question: what are the characteristics of my ideal prospect? Characteristics which of course are going to differ for every opportunity, so I'm just going to share some examples for you, such as someone that loves to learn, someone that's highly motivated, someone that's willing to invest in themselves, someone willing to invest in a business, someone that encourages others, someone that has money or willing to go get it, someone that's persistent, teachable, loves freedom more than security, has integrity, cares about others. This would be a great time, by the way, to pause the video and write down the characteristics of your ideal prospect. Now, once you know the characteristics of your ideal prospect, then it's time to ask, what would people with these characteristics do? Where would people with these characteristics go? What types of groups or organizations would they belong to? Because leaders of groups and organizations could be those key influential people for you. They might buy personal development books and take educational courses. You might find them in bookstores. You might find them in hotel meeting rooms. Matter of fact, I've heard of people who would find opportunity meetings at local hotels and then get the name of the meeting organizer and follow up with them later. They might take business courses. They might go to a community college or similar place for education. They might take job training courses through their local county. Matter of fact, where I live, they have a place called vocational rehab. They might take classes through their church. They might join home-based business groups online. They might advertise their home-based business online. They might advertise their home-based business offline. They might belong to groups like the American Marketing Association, which just so happens to be the group that I belonged to when I was in college as a business major. The answers to these questions will help you find who might be key influential people. For example, people who teach classes. So again, once we've identified what the people with the characteristics of your ideal prospect, what they do and where would they go and so forth, then you want to find out who are those key influential people that have access to those people. So in this example, people that teach the classes, teachers, people who are founders of online groups, people who own advertising space for people in home-based businesses. They could be pastors at local churches where people are taking classes through a church. They could be a hotel meeting room sales manager. So that's the person that would have access to all kinds of people that are doing opportunity meetings in their hotel. They could be leaders in another business opportunity. So if you haven't already, pause the video now and make a list of potential key people. This is critical. Don't skip by this. Pause the video and do this now. Now, using this process I just taught you, I'm going to share with you how I became a top 100 recruiter in a business with over 300,000 people in less than 6 months. I first identified my ideal prospect, and this was someone I found that was already in a home-based business and someone who was currently spending money to promote their home-based business. And by the way, this was back in 1991, and back then I did not own a computer. So in today's day of technology and all of its advancements, it'd be so much easier to find people today than it would back then. So now I found newspapers and magazines where people were advertising their home-based business. And let me back up a step. Why did I narrow this down to just two key characteristics at the time? Number one, again, people that were already in a home-based business. And the reason why I wanted to look for people that were already in a home-based business was because I didn't want to have to convince people of the value in being in a home-based business. But there are people in a home-based business, and then there are people that are very aggressively marketing their home-based business. That's why my second criteria was people that were spending money. They were to advertise their home-based business. That told me that these were the people that were serious about promoting their home-based business. So what did I do? I found newspapers and magazines where people were advertising their home-based business. I then would cut out the ads and put them in an index box. I'd put the ads 30 days past the current day, and then I'd call the ads on the current day, which again would be 30 days after I'd noticed their ad. And then I would tell them where I saw their ad and ask them how it was going. And the reason why I delayed calling them for 30 days after their ad was because after 30 days, most people were not getting the results they expected. Of course, when people place an ad, the day it comes out, they've just spent their money, they're excited about it, they're thinking about all the possibilities, but 30 days later, most people, not everyone, but most people were not getting the results that they expected. Which was easy to determine not only because of what they said, but because of how they said their response. So listen closely to how they respond. And specifically, I would ask them a question. So I would ask them how it was going. Then guess what I would do? I would ask them a question. Specifically, I'd ask them, if I could show you a way to make a lot more money quicker and easier, would you want to know about it? Some said no, which was great because you don't want to waste your time. No problem, just move on. But of course, a lot of people did say yes, which was also great because many people joined because they were my ideal prospects. So to summarize, one key ideal person, like the owner of an online group or someone that owns an advertising magazine or a teacher, etc., can help you get in front of many of your ideal prospects. So, how can you get a key influential person to give you access to their list or to endorse you to their list? I referred to this concept before, but now I'm going to give you the details. The concept is to find out what's most important for your key influential person. Then you want to show that key influential person that you can help them get more of what's most important for them when they give you access to their list or they endorse you to their list. So this is how I got Martha to give me the directory of her 300 plus charity members. First, I asked Martha why she was president of her local charity. So again, if someone's in a home-based business, ask them, why did they join? If someone in this example like Martha, we're looking now for the key influential people. We want to know, why are they in that position of leadership? Why are they doing what they're doing? And so I asked Martha, why was she the president of her local charity? And Martha told me that she had been a member of her local charity for many years, but she wanted to make sure that the vision of her local charity was accomplished. That's why she became president. She was passionate about making the vision of her charity a reality. So guess what I asked Martha? What was the vision of her charity, and why did it mean so much to her? Again, what I'm looking to do now is to find out why this is so important for her. So in order to do that, I want to know, well, what was the vision of the charity, and why did it mean so much to her? Martha told me that the charity's goal was to help kids whose parents were in jail. And when I asked Martha why was that so important to her, she told me that she had a very difficult childhood and very likely would have been in jail if it were not for other people helping her. She felt that if she could save even one child from a life of crime, that it would be well worth it. Then I asked her, guess what? Another question. I asked her what was the biggest need for the kids. I asked her that question for a reason, because helping the kids was so important to her. I wanted to know what the kids needed. Can you see how important it is to ask quality questions? Once I knew what the kids needed most, I wanted Martha to be as specific as possible so that she could imagine what each child needed. So again, here's a very important part of what I'm about to teach you. You not only want to know the what, but you want that person to imagine it as if it was happening in the future, of what they want to happen in the future as if it was happening right now. So Martha wanted to get Christmas presents for the kids because their parents were in jail. So I asked Martha, what specific presents did the kids want for Christmas, and how many did she need? Then I wanted Martha to imagine giving the kids what they wanted. This is best accomplished, by the way, by asking questions to help Martha see, hear, and feel as though she were giving the presents now. This is critical. Again, this is going to be accomplished by asking questions, and I'm going to give you the specific questions so that Martha could imagine seeing, hearing, and feeling as though she were giving the presents now. So for example, I said, Martha, imagine me giving you a check for $1,000 to buy presents for the kids. Then imagine giving each child exactly what they want for Christmas. By the way, using the word imagine is a great way to get a key influential person to think about what it would be like when you can help them get what they really want to have happen. So I said, Martha, imagine, let me back up, imagine me giving you a check for $1,000 to buy presents for the kids. What's that going to get her to do? That's going to get her to think about me handing her a check for $1,000 that she can then use to buy presents for the kids. Then I said, Martha, imagine giving each child exactly what they want for Christmas. What's that going to get her to do? That's going to get her to think about then taking that $1,000 check, buying the specific presents that the kids need, and handing them to the children. To motivate Martha to give me the directory, I want her to imagine what the kids would say and do, and also get Martha to imagine how that would make her feel. The more ways you can get Martha to imagine what the kids would say and do, and how that would make her feel, the more likely she will take action on your request. Remember, the request that what I wanted, my request was to get her to give me the directory of the 300 plus people that were members of her charity. This is so important. I'm going to repeat it, and I invite you to write it down. The more ways that you can get Martha to imagine what the kids would say and what they would do when Martha would be giving them the presents and how that would make Martha feel, the more likely that Martha is going to take action on your request. And I already mentioned this earlier. I'm going to say it, highlight it again. Using the word imagine is very powerful to get someone to experience something as though it were happening right now. So then I asked, what would be the look on the faces of the kids? Remember earlier I said you want Martha to see what it might look like. You want her to imagine the look on the kids' faces. So I asked her the question, what would be the look on the faces of the kids? And who specifically would say something, and what would they say? And you want to pause after you ask these questions so that she can answer them. You want her to start thinking about and imagining, wow, if I got this, Michael gives me this check for $1,000 to buy Christmas presents for the kids, and I go out and buy specific presents for the kids, and I give the presents to the kids, what would the kids say? Who would say something? What would they say? So using the word specifically, by the way, will help someone focus on what you want. And you want to put emphasis on that word. So when you ask the question, what specifically would they say? Put emphasis on the word specifically when you ask the question. What might they do? Would they hug you or give you a high five, etc.? So now you want, again, you want Martha to imagine seeing and seeing what people would say and imagining what they would do, and then eventually how that would make her feel. So would they hug you? Would they give you a high five, etc.? And how would that feel? Now I want to move her from seeing and imagining what they would do to how would it make her feel. My goal in asking these questions is to stack as many emotions as possible for Martha so that Martha can imagine giving the gifts as though it were happening right now. And what I mean by stacking is like putting one card on top of another. Like if you had a deck of cards and you put one card on top of another to create a stack of cards or a deck of cards, the more cards you have on top of each other, the more sturdy that deck of cards would be, right? So you want to stack as many emotions as possible for Martha so that the more emotions that you stack one after another so that that key person is therefore highly motivated to give you access to their list or to endorse you to their list. So once I got Martha to imagine giving the kids presents, then I would create what I call a trigger. Now what do I mean by that? A trigger is a connection between two things where one automatically motivates the other. Let me say that again. A trigger is a connection between two things where one automatically motivates the other. So for example, you might have heard of Ivan Pavlov. He created what was known as Pavlov's dogs. It was a conditioning experiment. And in the very first example there, before there was any conditioning, there was the food, or a dog bone in this case, and when a dog would see the food or the dog bone, the dog would start to salivate. Then Pavlov introduced a stimulus like a bell, but the bell had nothing to do with food, and therefore it did not stimulate any salivation for the dog. There was no response, in other words. In the third example here, what Pavlov did was he introduced the bell as a stimulus every time he brought food, and again the dog would salivate because it saw the food, but now the dog is tying the trigger of the bell and the food together so that eventually Pavlov got to the point where he could simply walk into a room, ring a bell without any food, and the dog would still salivate. That's the goal of where we're going. You want to get your prospect to be salivating, to be hungry for, to give you what you want. In this example with Martha, I wanted her to give me the directory of all the members in her nonprofit organization. So again, the goal is to get the key influential person salivating to give you what you want. Now, once you know what your key person wants most, then you help them realize that they're going to get more of what they want when they give you what you want. Let me say that again. The goal is to help that key influential person to realize that they're going to get more of what they want. So in this example, Martha wanted to help the children, and to do that specifically by giving them presents. So the more that I could help her realize that when she gave me that directory, it increased the likelihood that I could help her get more presents for the kids. So once I knew what the kids wanted most, which by the way just so happened to cost money, right? Presents for the kids, I then created that trigger between me helping Martha have more money for the kids and me getting the directory. Now again, the trigger is the automatic connection between two things. It's like showing a kid that they get to play video games when their room's clean. Guess what a kid's going to do if they really want to play video games? They're going to clean their room, right? It's important to make what you want very clear to your key influential person. So guess what Martha did when I told her that I could help her have more money for the kids? Martha immediately got up and walked to her bookcase and handed me her directory. So how did I get Martha to be triggered so she would hand me her directory? I used what I call the power of contrast. Here's how I first experienced the power of contrast, and then I'm going to explain this to you. Many years ago when I lived in San Diego, I lived in an apartment and I was watching television and I saw a commercial on TV. So you know this was a long time ago because this was for Blockbuster Video. This is prior to Netflix and so forth. And so if I wanted videos, I had to go get in my car, drive down to the store, you know, Blockbuster, where they had lots of videos. Now they had $1 million giveaway and their ad said all you need to do is walk in our doors and you could walk out a millionaire. The ad was so powerful, I was ready to get off my couch and go to Blockbuster Video. I even started in my mind to justify how I needed some new videos when I really didn't. The power of contrast is the contrast between two things, and the greater the contrast, the more likely people will take action. Let me clarify this. One thing is something that requires very minor effort and is easy to do. Okay, so again, it's the contrast between two things. One of the two things has to be very little effort and very easy to do. In other words, what you give. In the Blockbuster Video example, it was walk in our door. Now, how difficult would it have been for me to walk in their door? That was simple and easy, right? Walk in their door. The second thing is something very big, the benefit, what you get. And in the Blockbuster Video example, it was walk out a millionaire. So with Martha, I said, all you need to do is hand me your directory. That's the one thing that's very simple and easy for her to do. And the big benefit for her, the second thing is, I can easily give you lots of money for the kids. I clarified that for every person I sold an alarm, I'd give her a check for the kids. And once Martha gave me her directory, I wanted to find out who I should call first and why. This is really, really important as well. But that's covered in the third concept, and this is the end of the second concept. So again, I invite you to go back to schedule, first of all, to go back and review this program, this concept, the second concept, repeatedly. Pause the video often, take notes, schedule action items, schedule time to follow through on those action items. Make sure that you learn the concepts in here about what's most important, about triggers, about showing that key influential person that when they give you what you want, you can help them have more of what's most important for them. And remember, we started this whole second concept by identifying how do you find key influential people. And that started out with determining the characteristics of your ideal prospects. Once you know the characteristics of your ideal prospects, because not everyone's ideal, then we wanted to ask questions to find out what would people with these characteristics do, where would they go, and then who are key influential people that have access to a large number of your key prospects, prospects that had your ideal characteristics. So again, review this concept repeatedly, and we look forward to you continuing on with the next and third concept of our 4-concept program.